Hi there! This is KV and this is the moon phase report for the full moon that is coming on January 15th late in the evening, about 10 p.m. Mountain Time. So kind of the 15th and 16th. So, okay, I actually just recorded like 20 minutes of it, and then the sun was so shining brightly in my face. I was like, that's not going to work. So I have to now, I'm not good with do-overs because I never remember anything I talked about. But I do have an amazing story to first share with you, and it's really going to be relating to one of the messages that's you're going to hear over and over and over about how everything we are saying, feeling, thinking, intending is manifesting so quickly into our lives now. So as we leave this Piscean age of the victim, we're just going to be awakening to how much we do hold ourselves in these lower positions, which then manifest more experiences to reinforce that and to keep that steady. Because everything that we are intending, thinking, feeling, dreaming, doing is going out into the world and bringing us things to hold that steady, to keep that confirmed, to keep those things grounded. So it's a big journey to awaken people to how much they are keeping themselves in these bad positions by the way they're thinking, by the things they're saying in their head, by the words they're using, such as all the things of how, you know, you're never going to have this, and it's always been like this, but it's always been like that. You know, that was a big one I had to learn, because I know a lot of you will be triggered by what I have to say, and I'm totally cool with that. I actually enjoy that now. I actually enjoy being a provoker for spirit. It kind of makes me laugh. But things are going to push you because you don't want to hear it and you don't really believe it. But I want you to trust me because I walked that path for, you know, close to 14 years. I went from a life that was so blissful and so perfect, and where I was so carefree, and I never stopped smiling, and I had like the coolest boyfriend, and I had like the coolest friends, and I lived in the coolest city, and every day of my life was so friggin' cool. I mean, every day was just like cause for celebration, you know. It was really wild. So I went from this amazing space in life to one that is like of the worst nightmares, and like over and over and over and over, you know. So it was so rough. It was hard for me to stay alive. It was hard for me to keep going. It was hard for me to believe in spirit. It was hard for me to believe in miracles. It was hard for me to believe that anything really works out. It was hard for me to not believe that I was just a loser and karmically destined to fail. So it was a wild journey, and I worked really hard. I actually wrote a lot of amazing things during that time that I'm going to work on getting out into the world now. I mean, my birth chart books is one of them, and it changes people's lives, you know, so it's that powerful. And I created all these other books that I want to get out too with all this information back then. So there is always a balancing thing with what is going on, whether we're learning these tools that we'll later share with others, or, you know, there's a whole numerous amounts of ways that for the reasons for what we're having to go through. But my point is that I sat in the misery of those, I mean, it was at least like 13 years. I would give it like 12 to 13 of pretty nothing fun, just really wanting to give up, just my whole face changing, you know, my whole like everything just, you know, from like all the time to like my breathing changed. I mean, a lot of things physically changed in my body from that time, but I couldn't get out of the victim space of it. And I couldn't stop saying, like, yeah, but it's been like this for so long. Yeah, but I had to go through this for so long, you know. So I was always reinforcing it, reinforcing it, reinforcing it. If I ever did really believe in myself, it would be gone in a matter of days. Like, I didn't have the tools at that point in my life to have a sustainable happiness, to really keep everything on up vibe and hold it. Like now, like it's amazing how I've created these tools, and I'm now sharing them in my moon journey classes that I teach. But I'm teaching these tools on how to always stay on the up, and not only to stay on the up, but to look at everything that does happen, everything as an opportunity to teach us something or to show us that we need to work on something. And then knowing that it's going to pass, that then we're going to shift into this other vibration, depending on what your chart is. So I've even created these tools now to where like nothing phases me. Like it just doesn't phase me. It's like my brain has gotten tweaked so that now I can see right through it, and I know like it's either teaching me something or it's going to be gone in a day or two. So why even put focus on it? Or, you know, to really humble myself and be like, okay, why did I get so worked up over this? What do I need to do? What do I need to say to this person? What do I need to da-da-da? So it's just, I've learned to deal with everything in this really kind of humble way of, what are you showing me? What do I need to learn from this so I can move through these gates and get to the bliss? You know, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? But back then I wouldn't have thought that way. I still would have been like, whatever. I wasn't able to hear what anybody else could say. And I believe I had to have it that way because I had to walk this journey in order to share it. There's nothing that you're hearing from me that came from any book. There's nothing that you're hearing from me that came from watching anybody else speak it. There's nothing that you'll hear from me that was taught to me by anybody except for me and my own inner work and my guides and me just committing to walking this path and learning whatever I can about it and to make the most of it, you know. So that's one thing I'm always, you know, going to be telling a lot of you too about, like what you're putting out in the world, whether it's writing, creations, sharing messages, doing e-courses, sharing things. If we're all going to have the potential to be like a sparkler or to be a full-blown massive firework, which I told you in the last time. And if it is coming from something else and you're just kind of rewording it in your words or whatever, you're only going to be a sparkler. You will not be a firework, because everything is energy now. And you know, if you think about like, you know, like a migraine. You know, if you've never had a migraine and you're going to talk about migraines to someone, you're not going to really have the energy of knowing how miserable it is to have a migraine, you know. So, and you can apply that to everything until you have walked it and felt every nuance of it. I mean, somebody talking about being raped versus someone who has never been raped and is educating you on how to get over it. You haven't walked it. You don't know those emotions and all the things that come up when it happens. I mean, take any kind of violent thing, being in a car accident, you know, and I'm using these things that it's not like you'd really teach that stuff, but I'm just trying to, I'm going to go over it so much this year because you're going to see how things might be happening for you, but they, you know, a week later, it's not not as awesome as you thought it would be. It's not as sustainable as you thought it would be. And it's going to apply to every single thing that we have not walked and really know. But if we're trying to put that out as, you know, we've walked it, and I'm going to share this wisdom with you because we're all coming into this wanting to live our dreams now. A lot of people want to be teachers out in the world. A lot of people want to share this wisdom to help others. And it's great that so many people are going to be doing this, but there's still going to be an energy to everyone. And people will feel and gravitate naturally towards people who really walked this and really are experts on what they're sharing. So we're going to talk about that one so much. And let me just get to my story first. So my story was, okay, so I was working on getting some orders out, and I had and my printer broke. And it did pay itself off in a month, and I've had it for over a year, so I was like, that's cool, no big deal. I tried to fix it, you know, put a new driver, or load the driver, and do all this stuff, and it wouldn't fix. So I was like, okay, I gotta go to town right now and get one. And I did have this hesitation, and I was like, should I just wait till tomorrow and go? And I was like, no, you need to go now. You know, just get it done now so that you have the full day tomorrow to work. And then So I go into town, and the thing that happened was I was getting stopped by lots of stoplights because it was a time I was not usually in town, and I just kept getting stopped. So I was at one, and I had adjusted my mirror and was looking at my eyes and my skin, because one thing I'm going to talk about next or soon is that I got chicken pox at the beginning of the year, and I never had them as a child. So it was a big fear in me. It was a big fear, and I have a Virgo moon, you know. So it was a big fear that I would get it and die, because I had heard so many horrible stories about what happens if you get this when you're an adult. So I was always like, your kid has chicken pox, I can't see you for a month, you know. So I was really nervous about that virus. So anyway, I was looking in the mirror. I had repositioned my mirror because I was like, oh, look, you can see I'm getting so much like color back in my skin, and my eyes are looking good again. And I was just like, you know, I was just like noticing that in the mirror. And then, you know, I get stopped at a couple more stoplights, and then I came to one, and I was like, it was that thing, you know, where you make the decision on, you know, should you run this, should you not? And there was no hesitation in me. I was just like, run it. And I knew it was not okay. I mean, even like as I was going through the intersection, it was red, and I was like, oh, you so pushed that. You should not have done that. And like on the tail end, in the middle of even having that thought, I was still in the intersection when it happened. I hear the cop sirens, and I was like, oh! And then I looked in my passenger, I looked in the side view rear, and the cops just right behind me, coming right after me. And so I was like, oh my gosh, because I've never been pulled over. I've never gotten a ticket. I'm actually a really good driver. Especially dangerous situations, I'm always going to be the one to drive. I love risky driving. It's like fun to me. There's never nervousness. It can be hailing and you can't see anything, and I'll still have like a pinky on the steering wheel, you know. I never get nervous in that. I get really nervous like doing things on stage. Like, that makes me nervous, but driving in crazy weather does not make me nervous. So I've never gotten a ticket. And I've never gotten pulled over because I have a Virgo moon. I catch that stuff, you know. I'm going to know if there's a cop around. I can smell if there's a cop around. But I was so obsessed with the mirror, and and also thinking about getting the printer and hurrying up because I wanted to get back and go on a hike. So I just didn't even think about it. So I get pulled over, and yeah, she comes up to the car, and I go, yeah, that was a smart thing, huh? And she's like, yeah. And I said, and I was looking for all my information and stuff, and I gave it to her, and then, you know, she goes to the back, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, you know, if I'm gonna teach all this information on how everything we're thinking and doing and feeling is manifesting, then I know I need to use this opportunity to be really trusting of this, you know. And I was like, I just think she's going to give me a warning. I just think she's going to think I'm cool, and she's going to want, she can tell I'm a good person or whatever. I was just like, I just think I'm going to get a warning. I don't think I'm going to get this $200 ticket or whatever. And I was like, you know, I just kind of like lost any fear of it. I didn't have any fear. I was just like, you know, whatever. I'm really lucky, you know. I'm really lucky person. So I think this is all going to work out, and I'm going to be on my way, and it's going to be no big deal. And, you know, when I was first saying that, I did have that fear, because there is something with a cop and sirens and loud, and, you know, also everybody, it was cracking me up how everybody like is getting in their car but stopping to like just look and really see what was going on. It like made me laugh. But so I did have the first moment of, this is a fearful thing, the cop has pulled you over. But then I was like, I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have anything on my record. There's nothing to worry about. I don't have anything in my car. I haven't done anything. Let me just dream the best. So I just sat there and just visualized how she was going to be saying it was just a warning, and I was going to go on my way, and it was going to be no big deal. So she comes back up to the car, and I said, yeah, so this is my first ticket. And she was like, wow, first ticket. And I was like, yeah, I've just never gotten one. I don't get pulled over. This is something new for me. And she said, well, actually, I am going to give you a warning for the cell phone. And I go, cell phone? I wasn't on cell phone. And she's like, well, I pulled you over because it looked like you were on the cell phone. I was like, no. I was like, I'll get my cell phone out of my purse. It's been in here for a week, so it's dead. I was like, I never use this. I'm like, I can prove my calls. I haven't even probably used it for a month. I don't use my cell phone. I want to get rid of it anyway. So, and so she's like, well, that's why I pulled you over, because it looked like I could have swore it looked like you were talking on the phone. And I was like, no. And she said, well, why did you think I pulled you over then? She said, did you think you were speeding? Because you weren't speeding. And I was like, no, I didn't think I was speeding. I said, I thought I just ran that light. And she goes, you didn't run any light. Which I was like, yes, I did. And you did too. But if you wouldn't be so focused on me, thinking I was on the phone, you would have noticed we ran through a red light. But of course, I didn't argue that one, I'll argue most things that aren't right, but that one I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I don't know what I was talking about. So anyway, so I get off, no big deal. I'm on my way. I go pick up my printer. I was laughing at like what a great experience my first getting pulled over by cops was. And then, so then I, so I was like, oh, I bet because I tilted that mirror down, that's why it must have reflected something and it looked in the position like I had a phone. So I was just, going into the store laughing. I had to tell like the clerk, I'm like, oh my God, I just got pulled over and da da da. So it was so funny. And then the greatest part though was that it was about, I was almost the way home. It was at least like 20 minutes after that had happened, half an hour. And I suddenly was like, oh, my expiration is expired. My registration was expired. I remember back in September being like, ooh, that expires next month. Or maybe it was August I said it. And I was like, you need to take care of that next month, which, of course I forgot because I need assistance for all these things in my life now because there's so many details. But I didn't do it. It slipped my mind. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally had a 2013 sticker on my car. The registration sheet I gave her had to be expired. And I was like, that is unbelievable that she did not catch that. But then I was like, she didn't catch it because I wasn't holding that fear when I was sitting there in the car. Had I been holding that fear, that would have gone out there and she would have energetically picked up on it. But because I sat there with no fears, I wasn't worried about anything. I have full coverage. It comes out every month. I don't have to worry. I'm not hiding anything. But because that realization did not come to me, I was not able to hold that fear. But had it come to me then, I would have been like, oh my God, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I take care of that? When it came, I would have started beating myself up and stuff. So I just thought that was a really amazing story and I couldn't wait to share it with you all because look at that. Like who has a being pulled over by a cop story like that, especially driving with expired plates and having no clue about it. Like even when I was getting pulled over, that wasn't what I thought. I totally blanked that information, but I almost feel like I was protected in a way from realizing that because had I realized that, definitely I would have gotten a ticket for that. No doubt. It's illegal to have expired plates. You don't get a warning for that one, I don't think. They're like, it's expired, you should have bought it. So I thought that was just grand. I thought that was the cutest thing and the cutest learning opportunity. But one of the things that brought me to that realization too is that one thing I want to let you know that a lot of people have been really sick this year and a lot of people are having things that are not leaving them. There's a really big sinus one going on. A lot of people are having sinus things that just aren't clearing up. And like me, I get chicken pox. But I do want to, I want you all to apply the wisdom that I just shared in that story with that. Because a lot of people are still sick because they're thinking about it so much and because they're reinforcing it and because they're being really frustrated with it and also because they're using all these medications that aren't really working for an unlimited possibilities sort of being of us Aquarius Nation types of beings. So if you're going and putting a pharmaceutical drug in your body, it very well may not be healing, and you're like, nothing's working. I do recommend with the with the sinus thing, or everybody needs to get grapefruit seed extract, and it comes in pill form and it comes in a gel. But I would be, anybody who's still having the sinus thing, I would put that in a neti pot, and just kind of do some work up there in your sinuses. I would also even just take the capsules and see what that'll do. One of the things is that, you know, even when I got the chicken pox, you know, everybody was like, you need to go to the emergency room, you need to go to a doctor, you need to get a vaccine put in you, you need to take all these drugs, it's the only way to handle this. And I was like, I don't do it that way, you know. I am not putting any vaccine in my body unless it is for one I have to take to move out of the country and to move to another country. I will do that if I have to, and I'm planning on moving to New Zealand actually, and out of the States. I've kind of been told like in May I'm leaving, which I can't believe. That feels so early to me, and I love my life here. I love my house. I love where I live. So we'll have to see what happens for me in May. But yeah, so I'm not down with that stuff. I question all that stuff, you know, and that's one thing we're all going to be really learning, to question everything, because all this old stuff does not work. And vaccines, no way, no way. I feel like I would rather die and just go off to meet all these people I miss and be with them rather than do that. My brain is just like, nope. Can't do it. Even like pharmaceutical drugs, I was like, I can't do it. I can't just put that in my body. I don't trust them. I don't trust big pharma, you know. I don't trust this stuff. And I'm like, no, I can't do it. So that's a really difficult one for me. But on the flip side of it is that I do believe that everything is out there ready to heal us, and it's something that's already here on earth, or it's something that is just natural. It's a part of something, instead of a laboratory testing chemical, all this stuff that's like, what is that? I don't want to put that in my body. So, you know, for me, I was like, I'm not going to the emergency room. I'm going to like do some investigating on what this is, and then I'm going to ask my body what I need to do, and I'm going to do it. So I ended up getting I did kind of like the homeopathic way, and I feel great now. And I don't even think I should be feeling this good now. And also, you know, even like with the little pox, I only got 3, 1 a day for 3 days, but only 1 did all the stuff that it was supposed to do. The first one is the only one that did anything. The other 2 started to, but then I took all this stuff and they just went backwards and never did burst and stuff. So I was really, really tired though. I was like the most tired I've ever been, but I just like really got that vibe of like, I'm gonna hold the space that I can cure this on my own, and that I can handle this in the best way. And I was also like, and I'm not going to buy into the fear mentality of everybody telling me I'm probably going to die. And it was a fear mentality that I had too. You know, I was very scared of getting this. So it really opened me to a big message that everyone's going to be needing to think about, which is with warning signs. You know, warning signs happen, and they're always happening. You know, things like Fukushima is a warning sign, you know, things like the radiation is a warning sign. There's so many things that come to us as warning signs that are there to like awaken us and make us think and to change our plans now. But so often we get warnings, and then we like just believe 100% that whatever that warning was about is now going to happen, and then we hold the mentality of it has happened. And even though it hasn't happened, that warning set off fears in us, and then it's like we can't help but now manifest it. So I want you all to think about the warning signs that are coming up in your life, whether in relationships, whether in jobs. You know, we're always given warnings. And just to think about, oh, isn't that funny about the cop thing was a warning sign too. That's so funny. It was a warning. I didn't think about that. But it more solidifies whatever I'm talking about. But so whatever I'm talking about, which is true, because I never know what I'm going to talk about. And then I never remember what I say on these, so I'm totally in the void the whole time for it. So, but yeah, the warning signs, just to like whatever you're seeing, whatever's saying, you know, this thing that is showing up, that's a precursor for diabetes, or whatever's showing up, this probably means that it could very well end if you continue on this way, or, you know, whatever that stuff is that's showing you. Don't just buy into it as the end result anymore, you know, and instead really be like, this was a warning sign, and I am being warned, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to now stop this warning sign and reverse the path that it was headed towards. You know, so think about the warning signs right now, because I know that's popping in a lot of your minds of, we're being shown this kind of stuff, and the challenge is to not just let it follow through and manifest, and instead to be like, this is just warning me that I need to change something. I need to change my thought patterns. I need to change this communication problem I have. I need to change this job. I need to change, you know. So instead of buying into the negative of what this thing is warning you about, look at the warning signs as a positive thing that is awakening you to something, just like with me and being pulled over by the cop. You know, it was just a warning. I didn't have to pay. I didn't get in any trouble. Nothing was, you know, but it's like I was still warned, hey, you do need to take care of this. You do need to pay attention going through. You're not supposed to go through red lights. What if, you know, whatever. But just maybe that's a law that I do need to abide by. And, you know, my warning was pretty mild, but, you know, that's what I got with the chicken pox, was that, you know, one of the things that I had read about it is that like a week or two before, you have this tingly kind of numb, itchy, there's like sensations that are happening under the skin before this goes full blown and happens. And I did this whole side of my face, this was all tingly and numb, and I was even like, do I have like red eye? Because it was so like this, there was just stuff going on here. And then when I later read that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've had that for like a week. So it really gave me this thing of like warnings, you know. And then I, you know, really kind of went into looking at it as just a warning that, yeah, you could have like, you know, 500 bumps around your eye and go blind if you don't take care of this. So I just like snapped into attention, you know. I just was doing juice. I did everything to build my immune system up. But yeah, all these things kind of came to me to take, do this, take that, do that. So I did, and then I sailed through chickenpox as an adult, because I never had it as a kid, and I sailed through it with flying colors, you know. So this is kind of like a message for all of you with what's going on, but a lot of people who are still sick and who cannot get better, that you need to do something with how you're seeing it. You need to believe that there's a natural way to treat it. There needs to be some kind of shifting with how you're seeing it and looking at it as this detrimental kind of thing that you have to go to the doctor and get put on pharmaceutical drugs, you know. And it's funny too, because when I was making that decision, I was like, I was cautious with it, because I was like, I'm really stubborn like this with pharmaceutical drugs, and I've been for a really long time. I've seen a lot of addicts. I've seen a lot of painkiller addicts. And I've noticed it too recently, like when I'm in town or I'm at stores, like I'll just notice people who, it's like you can tell they're on painkillers or something. Like they there's a different look to the eyes. It's more of a, it's kind of like how you can tell when someone's stoned, you know, it shows up in their eyes. There's something in people's eyes, and you know, so I'm really nervous about going down that path, but I was also like, I don't want to make a mistake where, you know, I'm dying now because I did not trust that there is something to this, and maybe I do need to handle this virus in this way. So I did, you know, I'm definitely always going to go to both sides of it with it. But what ended up happening was I ended up watching this documentary, and it was called The American Addicts, and it was on pharmaceutical drugs. And what's so wild is 5% of the world population are people in the US. So the United States, as huge as it is to us who live here, so 5%, is that it? 5% of the United States, 5% of the world population are the people who live in the United States. 5%. 80% of the pharmaceutical drug usage is in the United States. So 80% of all the pharmaceutical drugs that are manufactured, used by human beings are prescribed to people in the United States. 80%. And this movie was so, I was so glad to watch it, because it was all the things, like that's where for me, so many of the things I just say, I don't really know where I get the information. I just say things and I know they're the truth. So there was a lot of them that I had felt about pharmaceutical drugs in that movie. But it is like, yeah, it's so easy to get these prescriptions. You just go, my shoulder hurts, and they're like, here, and Vicodin, is that what it's called? Vicodin, I don't know, but and then they just give them to you, and then they keep giving to you and keep giving to you, and then there's all these scams with it, and all these people are dying from them. Oxycontin, all these people dying. I had a family member who even died from that when he was a teenager, and so yeah, so I made the right choice, and I want you guys too to believe that you can make the right choice. So whatever kind of sinus thing, it's really big, like it's chest, it's mucus, and it's this area for a lot of people, here and here. And I just, you know, I want you to try some things that are more natural and of the earth, because I believe, like, you know, the space we're moving into now, it's rejecting all these things that are the old world way. You know, so we're going to have to acclimate and adjust to this. This is another reason why every single thing we have to question. Everything that we just naturally put into our body, we have to question. You know, we need to question seriously every single thing that would go into our body, in all sense of what could go into our body. Like, no joke, we have to question that. So I did, the positive part of being, you know, knocked out for a week was that I got to watch so many documentaries, so I feel fully loaded and educated, and and I'm actually starting a new movie list on Aquarius Nation, because if you know, my last one was banned and deleted because I talked about this movie that talked about Hiroshima, that talked about what's going to happen to all people in America in, you know, 18, 20 years, because all the radioactive illnesses that come from nuclear plants don't show up for like 20 years. So my whole movie list got banned. So I'm creating another one, and my friend's going to be in charge of putting that together and getting it on the website. So let's get into astrology. Okay, so for this full moon, let's see what's going on. So we're still, you know, one of the things is, like, everything is with integrity. Everything is, it's going to be a big journey this year to really acknowledge and make peace and humble ourselves to see all the places that we're not operating with integrity. And it's in a lot of areas in our life. You know, as I explained in the last video, or maybe I explained it on our January event with Reverend Eva, I think. But I said that, you know, I wasn't operating with integrity, and that's the reason these dreams took me 14 years to manifest. And it took me you know, up until a couple weeks ago to finally realize that, because I still just thought it was a timing issue. But then I just realized I wasn't saying the appropriate things to help manifest things. Or I was still like having issues with people and damning them in my mind. You know, I was still like playing like nice with them when I really didn't trust them, or I had mean things in my head, or I had competitiveness in my head, or I had just also reinforcing all the things of being a victim, and reinforcing all the things that kept me in these kind of lower ways through the words that I was using. So I wasn't operating with integrity. I've always operated with integrity with what I create. You know, everything that comes through me to share that's a wisdom kind of tool is always with integrity and high vibrating and honoring. But what I was actually then going out and walking in the world was not operating with integrity. So I was not allowed to go off and teach this stuff yet, which I'm thankful for. Because that's one thing too, I'll tell people sometimes, you kind of only get one chance with how you're going to teach things and the energy you're going to have when you teach it. So it's really important that you wait until you're old enough, until you're wise enough, until you're really operating with integrity from the inside out. Because if you put all this effort to put your stuff out there, when you're not really operating with integrity, it's going to be like that sparkler. And it's not going to be the full-blown firework that it could be had you waited, you know, maybe even a couple years, you know. Even like with my birth chart books, I was always stopped. I was always stopped from it getting out in the world. I would so try to push it, so believe it, but I was just, that door would slam on me. It was like, no, do not share this yet. You cannot share this yet until you're really out there walking your talk with this information. And I'm really thankful for that now, but I always, you know, I'm always kind of wanting people to slow down with, because there's such a push out in the world, you know, there's such a push to make money, to create these things, and, you know, even so much of it, I don't know if I said it on this video, but, you know, with the like, taking what you've heard from somebody else, or taking what you've learned from another book, and then trying to put it out there in your words. Like, that's another one that, you know, it could get you a little bit of attention, but it's not going to have the same energy of the person who then does the same thing, but has actually walked that path and then brings it out into the world. That person will blow you into the smoke, or I don't know what a phrase is with that. Blow you into the wind. But they'll surpass you by 500 because they walked it, and because they've walked it, we feel that stuff now. So I guess, you know, another way to think of it is like, all of us are so intuitive and such empaths and so hooked in and so really understanding vibrations now, that we just naturally feel the ones who are authentic. We just gravitate towards them. And sometimes we move towards someone who's not really operating with integrity yet. It's kind of before their time. There's still more lessons to learn. And we might be attracted to them, but then like that attraction fizzles. Because a lot of us, we want to love people. We want to support them. We want to believe that they're doing what they're saying they're doing, so we will come forward and, oh, wow, and da-da-da. But then what I've noticed with my barometer is then I just kind of peter off and move backwards from them. Then I'm just like not talking about them so much, or not, you know, it's just the connection dies, because it's not this truly like grounded, sustainable, authentic vibration that comes from something that you really know because you walked it. And now, you know, because I had to redo this video, that's such a nightmare, even now that the sun's getting me again from this other crack in the in the curtain. But I don't know if I said this one, and I know I said it, I don't know if I said it on here, but I'll just give a couple examples again to remind you of, like, maybe I'll come up with better ones than I used last time, but well, I think I'll do that one because that's a good one. But one of the things, like, so imagine that, you know, someone who has never had a migraine versus somebody who has migraines. You know, that person who's never had them can never, ever understand the most unbearable pain that it is to experience migraines. You know, and it's the same thing like someone who had to have a leg cut off will never, someone who has not ever had something like that happen will never be able to understand the story of that person and what they had to go through. You know, I mean, it can be the same too of an alcoholic who, you know, think about that, like an alcoholic who rises above and heals themselves and loses that habit. Think about how then they write a book that is about breaking habits and, you know, starting over again, versus somebody else who wants to write a same book like that, but really just learned everything from reading other books, but they got it, you know, intellectually they got it, so they're like, I can write a book on this because I get it. You know, that book will come nowhere even close to what the book will be with the person who actually walked that journey and is now sharing those tools. So that's one of the integrity things, and this can trigger people. This is another one where I might trigger you. But if you don't believe me, go forward, push it out, push what you want to do out there into the world, and just see how you keep coming up against a wall. Just see how, oh, you might be noticed by this one person and they share you and you're like, this is it, this is going to change my life, I'm going to be able to reach all these people now. But if you didn't really walk it and don't really know it and aren't really an authority on it and haven't really, you know, healed your garbage first, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just not. It's going to be a sparkler, and it might look all pretty and awesome for a minute, but then it won't be sustainable. It won't be some of that, one of those things that everybody is like, you have to read that book. You have to take that class. You have to buy this product. You know, it'll just be this thing like maybe people love you and they'll talk about that. And that's what it was with me when I tried to push it out. People who loved me would talk about it, what I was doing, but it couldn't get picked up because it was, the energy wasn't matching. You know, who I wanted to be seen as wasn't matching how I really saw myself inside. You know, so we are going to have this one come up big time in the world, and I've already noticed it so much because we all really know that 2014 is the year that we believe in ourselves and really start doing what we're here to do. So I noticed that everybody is like pushing themselves out into the world right now. Like, it's like, there's events going on, that event's going on, this person's having an event, that person's going on. I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, everything. So there is going to, and that's beautiful though. I am happy that people are like trying and pushing, you know, believing in themselves. These are some of the first steps that help you believe in what you're supposed to do and will motivate you to like put it out there and do it. But do understand we have this whole year for whatever needs to manifest for you, and it very well may just be a year of not putting anything out that you're creating and just really building up your inner reserves first. You know, really building up the confidence in what you can do and the confidence in that you can do this in a really awesome way. You know, maybe you need a whole year to build that up. You know, maybe it's next year that it all happens. But I noticed like January 1st and everyone's like, and this and this and this, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this, here's my new done. I'm like, whoa, overwhelm. Everybody's jumping out there going, notice me, notice me, notice me, look what I'm doing. And I'm selling this and then after that and da. So it's kind of funny. But it'll be the same where, you know, whatever energy you are putting out there with that, that will be your level of success. And how much the energy, the vibration of your true integrity and your true expertise on this will be will manifest as a mirror. How do I put that? What you are vibrating is what you will get back, basically. So if this really is authentic and real, and you know this, and It's not something that was just, because that's like the biggest one. It's so sad. A friend of mine is also going to be doing a book list on Aquarius Nation for all these books you need when you're waking up and stuff. And I was going to put something on there about, you know, my friend created this, and I actually stand by not reading books. Nothing like I say I talk about has come from a book. I'm really rigid on that. Like, if I even start to read a book and it starts to talk about things that I want to talk about or understand, I stop reading, because I was like, no, I don't. Like, if I already read it in a book, every time I'll say it on here, it's just weak sounding. And even like I've had it where I know I'm going to talk about something, and then somebody shares how this other person talked about that same thing. I mean, even that, knowing somebody else is talking about it, makes me like say it in this weak sort of way. So I have to keep myself so shielded and not learning anything outside of me, because I just have learned how to bring this through in an organic way, and it's so cool to me that I do have all the answers, and that every spiritual awakening sort of thing does come to me naturally. You know, I don't need to be inspired through a book. It comes through me. It comes like when I'm out hiking. I just think about these things, and it comes through me observing my life so closely, you know, and being like, God, what did I need to learn from that? You know, it comes from that humble perspective. Like, all you guys need to do is just be humble and want to learn more, and all the trade secrets will flow through your mind. You'll hook up to that string that hooks up to this other information, and it'll just come through you. You don't have to go learn it in a book. And I tell you what, if you want to teach this stuff, do not learn it in a book. If you just want to learn it and you want to teach something else, you know, feel free, read the books. But if you want to share this kind of information, you can't read it in a book. The energy potential is gone, you know? The energy potential of getting it on your own, where you're like, that's why, like, these things I get, I'm like, oh my gosh. And they fill me up with this excitement and this, like, you know, then I'm so much more able to go out and walk them into the world, instead of like reading something in a book and so being behind it and then forgetting about it the next month, you know, because it like comes to me. You know, then I'm like, I can walk it. I can realize when I'm being tested the next week about what I just learned. So with that, you know, book list, I'm going to be like, but I love that all these books are here and you guys can dive into them, but my way is the staying away from everything that is other people's information, and allowing it to come through you, and then only reading the books later where it's a confirmation, because then it's really powerful. I do admit that. Like when I already think something and write something and share it, and then I can read it and somebody else saying it, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, then it's an empowering thing. It's cool. But you want your body to tell you this information first, you know? So with this one, you know, we're very much, you know, kind of everything is still really withdrawn. There's still a really strong stillness in the world, and we haven't really pushed ourselves out there yet, and we're not really ready to get this party started. There's a lot of inverted energy, where we are just really thinking about our value system, you know, and I'm going to talk about this one a lot, because values are everything. How you value yourself is everything, and it determines everything that you're going to have in life. Just like how different it is with children, with parents who just valued that child and instilled the beauty and magic and importance of that person, and you can do anything, you know, versus a child that's raised being told they're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're never going to do anything, you've ruined my life, you know. Like those kids have, you know, different kind of journeys to get to that solid valuing who you are and feeling the self-worth of who you are. So there is still a lot of energy that's pulling us back and recognizing where these kind of fears have come up, and where we're staying in these lower density ways of describing ourselves, describing our life, and really holding ourselves back from expanding. So there's good medicine to this pullback right now. And it really is taking us back in time. It's taking us back with other relationships that didn't work out. There's lots of learning in this pullback, and there is to be a lot of peace in this pullback where we're making peace with others, whether it's just energetically, making peace with situations in our life that really hurt us or that we feel have determined, sealed our fate. You know, so there is a lot of that pulling back and seeing things from our past. But, you know, even like that too, you know, with this new year, our fears have really come to the surface because they need to go. And it's part of that Venus-Jupiter retrograde in an opposition. So, and then right up there with Pluto. And for the full moon, it's making a T-square with Mars. So there's even more of the energy here, but our fears, because everything is manifesting so quickly now, our fears so came to the surface. That's why a lot of us got sick, got knocked out. That's why I magnetized chicken pox, even though all these years of adulthood, I never got it, you know, but on the first of that month, first of this year, the moment we like started stepping into this new energy, and I got a full-blown illness that was the illness that, didn't you love my new necklace? This is Thank You Cassidy. I have so many special things that have been showing up in my mailbox recently. This one is Thank You Val. But so I magnetized that because it was a big fear of mine, you know, it was such a fear. So all those things, do be aware that all the things that you're fearing, that are like your worst fear nightmare, are coming right into your life at this point. And it's really just this kind of trying to make peace time, you know, so really kind of recognizing that all the fears that are coming up, you're being given this stillness opportunity to really go deep and to go to the root cause of them, to go to where they originated, to go to where this first seed was planted. And there can be a lot of magic right now with really busting through those and healing that stuff and letting it go, because it's all about letting it go right now, especially with this full moon. One thing that's really big with this full moon is letting go of where we've been overly sensitive, where we've been needing others' approval, which I don't want to go into it on this one because I'm already getting up there, but that's a big one that's shifting out of us. I think I may focus on that one actually for my February 1st event with me and Reverend Eva, which I'll talk about in a minute. But really kind of letting go of where we've been overly sensitive and reading other people's signs or whatever they've done and turning it on us and how they don't like me or they don't approve of me or they didn't respond to me or something's wrong with me, because, you know, I even had to say that because I'm teaching my first class now, and, you know, there's like 60 people in it, and I had a couple people got really sensitive because I didn't answer something that they had said, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm juggling like between that and all these other things and all these other things. It's like 50 emails a day, you know, so I'm just, and some of them too, if they're too long, I go, okay, I'll have to deal with that later, and then I do it, forget about it. The short and quick ones definitely get my attention. That's a little word for the wise there. But so, you know, but it's with each one of these I'm seeing how, but that's your perception, you know, but that's your perception that's now having you feel like you're not good enough or that person doesn't love me. And so we're really kind of learning to right now with this full moon, especially where we are a bit too sensitive, where we need to kind of toughen up and be like, whatever, I don't need this person's approval. I don't need this person telling me I'm good. I don't need this person noticing me, you know, because that whole approval one is huge. And I wish I had started talking about it earlier, but I'll have to do it on the next one because that's a really important one. And just know too that this energy is moving to get you a little more selfish in a way, and not like with not thinking about others, but with like really putting yourself forward and being like, you know, since this is a T-square, there's always a one point that's kind of the point that I always look at with them. And the point that I would look at is about being like an Aries and just being like the baby and just being like me first. You know, kind of like, I guess that could be that one of the biggest things for a lot of us is needing to put ourselves first, because we've always been putting others first. We've always been like, well, I just want you to be happy. I mean, think about how many people get into romantic relationships where it's just like, it's all like, oh, I just want to take care of you. I was so that one. I had to like way step out of relationships and become like a guy in them. I became like the guy that then all the guys would want to be with me, and I'd be like, no, we got to keep this loose and on the down low. And you know, I turned into very male in my relationships, where I was just more like, let's keep this friends with benefits, you know. And I don't want to get too deep. I'm not looking for a relationship. But before that, I was so like everything, like for my man, and adore him and always be touching him and petting him and him. You know, forget about me. Let me make your life feel so massive and awesome and wonderful and da-da-da-da. So we're kind of awakening to where we need to have more of a balance. But for most of us, it is in putting ourselves first, you know, and taking care of like self-care stuff with us, taking care of ourselves first, building ourselves up, believing in ourselves, loving ourselves, feeling self-worth for ourselves, and then taking on the relationships, taking on these careers that are our dream, you know, taking on these other things in our life after we have that really solid, grounded, rooted, stable faith and love for ourselves, you know. And like, I have a lot of friends who are just the most awesome mamas, and they take such good care of their kids. And I would even like say something like that, of like the care you have for them, you need to apply to yourself. So this full moon's going to have a lot of like, there could for sure be lots of like buttons pushed and feeling sensitive. So I would say over like the next week, really kind of see where you're getting your feelings hurt, and really kind of see what is making you feel not good enough from what somebody else did or did not do. So there will be triggers that show up, and just kind of when it does happen, instead of blaming, because remember, the blame game is gone. Every time I hear the blame game now, I'm just like want to like vomit. It's like, God, that one is so not fun to hear. I mean, it makes your body like, ugh. But so we can't keep blaming for others for any of the things. So anybody who triggers you, you know, really kind of use it as an opportunity and be like, I want to see why that triggered me so much. I want to see why that so made me feel not good enough, and no one's going to love me, and or whatever does come up for you. Really kind of go deeper into that, and then even go back into childhood when it happened. You know, go back to the roots of it, and knowing how powerful the energies are now, why not just once you find it say, I'm done with that. That was a lie, you know. Realize that all this stuff is just lies, and we've just, you know, everything in the world too, government and all this money, big pharma, all that stuff, it's all lies, you know. But until we can like really go there and acknowledge it and find it, and where it came from and where it started, that's like the first step. And then when you do find it, it's just making that commitment and that goal and that, you know, saying like, I'm done with this. I am not, you know. And then it's going to be just about creating a new pattern, because all these things that we're finding right now in our bodies, in our life, all these things that are making us feel not good enough, or nobody's going to love me, or everybody hates me, or, you know, all that kind of stuff we have as wounds. It's just about tweaking that so that you're not manifesting more opportunities for that to keep showing up in your life. So it's going to be making the peace with it, doing whatever self-talk healing work you need to, and then every time it keeps coming up again in your life, bring those words back to it, you know, bring that healing back to it, because we're always having tests. Tests are a really big part of our life. Like the moment you think you've fixed something, you won't be tested for a little while, so that you'll really get kind of cocky about how I healed this, my brother. I healed this, you know, and then like a couple weeks down the way, and then it's like it happens again. So you're going to be tested on how you handle it this time. And you're going to be tested a couple times, but after you just pass them and pass them and pass them a couple times, then it's gone. And then you're not continuing to manifest it with your thoughts of, I'm never successful, I always struggle. But listen to that everything is going to go back to those words you're using. Every single thing. I wish that we could like all have recorders on us every day, inside our head especially, but like every day, and that we really did listen to it again, like it's coming from another person, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said those words. That's so just shortchanged you and what you want to have happen in your life. So it's a consciousness thing. It's a consciousness thing of us seeing where we're doing this and where we're holding ourselves back. And this is why I said too, the gap is going to widen in huge, huge ways. There will be people manifesting every dream of their life. And then there will be people who are just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole of misery. And it's really just that the person who is manifesting their dreams is only saying things, intending things, doing things, and thinking things that are in the high vibrational, unlimited possibilities way. And the person who is having the other one is saying these other things that are low vibrating, and it's not a mean thing. This is not to come out as a mean thing. It's just that the words are the scale, you know, and like you can't get around it. It's like going through a metal detector, you know, and if you're still saying all these negative things about how nothing works out and all I do is suffer, you're going to get stopped from that metal detector. It's going to see that. Even if they're just in your mind, you're going to get caught. And you'll get stopped. And you'll get sent back into reliving more of these things you're thinking. You know, yet the person who's like, I love who I am. And I think I am doing really amazing things. And I'm so lucky. I love my life. And you know, even how I dealt with getting pulled over by the cop, you know, like if you can handle everything like that, where you don't look at it as everything being a mistake and a mean thing happening to you. Instead, you're like, this is my life. I'm supposed to experience this. You know, it's that trusting our life and, you know, what's unfolding and just going with it. You know, it's kind of like someone who has a baby that has a disability. You just got to go with it. You can't sit there and then think about, I can't believe I have to go through this, and oh my gosh, in my life now, and da-da-da, and victim, victim, victim. You got to be like, this is what I have now. I got to go forward. I got to learn some new things because, you know, this is going to be not what I expected, but you don't want to just sit back in the misery of it and then make it into this really ugly thing because everything's coming really quickly now. But do too know, the whole point is for you to be very humble with what happens in your life, but also to look at everything as a warning sign. You know, so everything that is coming back into your life is a warning sign about what vibration you're really holding inside and what you're really thinking and what you're really talking about with people, just like that gossip one, or putting people down behind their backs. That's one of the worst ones you can do. You will never get where you want to be if you're still doing that. You know, and there's ways that we maybe need support from our friends where we're talking about things, but you have to like hold a space for them, you know, that you don't need the other person to agree with you. You don't want them to put that other person down, but you just need to share this stuff to get it off your shoulder. You know, do it like that if anything. But when you get two catty people, two judgmental, catty, negative people together, talking about someone else and putting them down, and yeah, what did you hear what she did? And she's da-da-da. Like, that is the most evil energy that's out there right now. And it's what is keeping so many people from really being happy and living these life of their dreams. So understand that whatever's showing up in your life is just a warning sign. And if it's wonderful and beautiful, you're doing great, you know? If you're having all these dreams manifest, if your career's soaring, if your love life's soaring, if all that stuff is soaring and feels so good, then you're doing good. You know, what you're thinking and intending and doing and feeling is in alignment with what you want your world to look like. But if all these things are still manifesting that aren't, there's just things that need to change within you. But that's your job to figure that out. And that's your job to see what needs to be made peace with and healed. But it's never something to then, you know, like with an illness, buying into it. It's a warning sign. All these things that are coming right now are just warning signs. And they're trying to awaken us to this other way. And I want you guys to be competitive with this. You know, I want you guys to be competitive so that everything that happens to you, you get a microscope and look at it so closely. You know, you go, oh, I just had this really horrible thing happen. What was my part in manifesting that? You know, what was I thinking? What kind of fear mentality or victim mentality brought that into my life? You know, so I want you to be competitive like that, so that anytime something happens, you race to it with a microscope or a magnifying glass. You know, you go, oh, this thing happened to me. I can make myself better if I heal this and work on this and get to the root cause of this. So everything that happens, be stoked, and don't just bury it, and don't just blame it on somebody else, and don't just call yourself a victim. We can't do that anymore. And you can fight this, but the things will just keep magnetizing and bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're all just warning signs. They're not the end product. They're not the end results. They're not something that is doomed. Even like I've always been that way with cancer. I don't believe in the cancer. I don't believe that the cancer cannot be cured. I believe that it can be cured holistically. I also believe that our bodies have cancer cells at different times, but that then we regenerate and they're gone. I have a lot of really far out beliefs like this, but I think it's best that I do. Yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt me. I would think that if I ever had a life-threatening illness, I would like do everything holistic to treat it, and if I couldn't, I would just accept that I was going to die. I wouldn't, chemo, Fukushima radiation, I know doctors who stand behind that one too. They would never get radiation if they had the same problem, but they're taught to share this way. So I believe there's other ways, and I believe that what we think is what ends up happening, right? So if anybody has a problem with that, I feel you. I'm not asking you to jump ship and believe what I do, because what works best for us because we're all individual like that. But for sure, I do have a different way of looking at a lot of things. Fortunately, it seems like the world's catching up with me, so I don't have to feel so odd about that anymore. So I'm going to get going here now. That's the kind of theme of what this full moon is going to be bringing up, and a lot of these things too, the emotional thing that we are bringing up is very hidden. It might not be something that we so see. It might even take being reflected by another. It very well can be something that we can't see until we see it in somebody else. But you'll get it this month. There's a light shining on that hidden spot. So definitely plan on some, you know, big kind of miraculous things revealing themselves to you in how you've been overly sensitive or too emotional with things, or maybe even needy. You know, like that's that thing, needing approval, needing someone to think you're good, needing their approval, and having that determine your level of life experience, you know, being lived. Also, let's see, let me let you know about events. I have my next Moon Journeys class that begins on the 18th. I'm limiting the class number because the last one was so big, but I think I'm going to have them every month because it's really valuable information, and then people love it. It's so cool. I'm having so much fun with it. And then I also am doing the next Healing Journeys class, but you have to take the Moon Journeys first, so that's just for the people who are in Moon Journeys. And then I think we're having a shamanic journey work this week. I'll have the events list down below. And then on the 28th, we're going to have a distance healing call with Kuan Yin in the prayer field. And then on February 1st, we're going to have our, excuse me, our monthly event with me and Reverend Eva, where I'm going to talk the astrology. I think I'll talk more on the approval thing, And then I'm going to talk a little bit on the astrology, what you need to know to move through February. And then she's going to do her Pleiadian attunements on us, which everybody loved. The January event. It was so cool. There was a lot of little misstep things, like I had no sound in the beginning, even though we had just done sound check. But so I wasn't even able to get any sound until the very end, and I finally came on and did the astrology for every sign. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm first going to come on and talk just some energy things, whatever comes up about the whole month of February. And then Eva will come in and do the Pleiadian attunement meditation. And then I will come back and do the individual sign readings for the month of February. So I wanted to do it that way because the last one was 2.5 hours and it was so long. And it would not have normally been that long because Eva had to keep talking as I tried to fix everything on my end. So now it'll hopefully be about 2 hours, but I wanted to have all the individual ones at the end so that like after the meditation you could like play it later maybe. You could keep watching, but you could also maybe watch it the next day if it's not too long. So I wanted to break it up like that. So those are the events for the month, and you have a beautiful full moon, and just know everything is just a warning sign right now, you know? So if it feels great and it's flowing right along, perfect. Keep doing what you're doing. If there's things that are stopping you, roadblocks, fights, any of that, just know it's, some things that you just need to look closer at. But no one's wrong. No one's the victim. No one's to blame. This is just how we make ourselves better, This is just how we become conscious. It doesn't happen overnight, and it only happens to those who do the work. So that's why I say be competitive with this one. Do the work or don't and be miserable. But if you do the work, you're not going to be miserable. So you might be afraid to look at this stuff and face it and keep it real, but if you don't, you're just going to have more of that miserable stuff. So it seems to me like to be humble and really be honest and look at it seems like the way to go, huh? Okay, you have a beautiful full moon. I'm losing my voice. I will see you. I'll see you around the 1st for the next video, and then I'll see you with me and Eva doing our event. Okay.